Hey, everybody. I hope everybody's faring well with our new reality of isolation during this coronavirus pandemic. And I hope you're all being safe and taking the right steps to make sure that all of us can stay safe. That said, during this time where in real estate, there's not a whole lot going on, we're kind of slowing down for a minute. I know I personally have been doing things to expand my knowledge, and I would like to give you guys the opportunity to do the same thing if you're interested. I wanted to share some of the things that I know that I specialize in with you guys, and what I wanted to talk about today primarily is creative financing, which is a real estate technique that involves 5 different styles, but the outcome is always, or usually because it is still investing, but the outcome and the goal, the end game, is to make thousands up front, hundreds each month, and thousands on the back end. So that said, let's talk a little bit about what creative financing actually is. When we think about real estate investing, typically we think of either bringing cash to the table, getting a loan, or some other type of financed way that involves the traditional ways where we're going to pay cash, we're going to go to the bank, we're going to go to a lender that specializes in investing, you're going to go to a hard money lender, things along those lines. This does not involve that. This is going to be the seller of the property, the owner that you're buying from, is going to be your bank. They are going to be the one to finance this for you. So that sounds more complicated probably than it is, but it's really not that hard. So what you look for with that is you're looking for people who are in a position where they have to sell their property and either they don't have equity or they need to sell quickly or they like a monthly income but they don't like dealing with tenants. There's a lot of people that fall into this range. So it's not as difficult as one would imagine. There are 5 ways to do this, and I'll touch on each of those really quickly. Your first way is going to be owner financing. Your second way is going to be a subject to purchase. Your third way is going to be a lease purchase. Your fourth way is going to be a contract for deed. And your fifth way is considered a wrap mortgage. So starting first with, and just I'm going to be very brief. I'll go into more detail on each one at another time. But very briefly, starting with owner finance. Owner finance is exactly what it sounds like. You make your payments directly to the owner. The title transfers to your name. This works when an owner has no mortgage on their property. The people that are typically interested in that type of transaction are people who have been landlords and do not like chasing their rent. They do not like making repairs. They do not like the unknown that comes with, are they going to have vacancy this year? Is the roof going to give out? Do you need a new HVAC unit? Things along those lines. Then you have your subject to purchase. Your subject to purchase are for people that need to sell right now for whatever reason. Maybe they've been transferred. Maybe they are going through a divorce. Maybe they can't afford their home anymore. Situations like that. Those people, but in the same token, they need to sell right now, but they don't have equity. So for those people, you would basically take over their mortgage, but it's not an assumable. What you're going to do is you will be making payments on the mortgage in their place. The mortgage stays in their name, but the house goes in your name. So this works really well for people that are behind or are afraid of falling behind because you are able to make the payment that they cannot right now. So that's often very beneficial to them. Third option is a lease purchase. A lease purchase really works for pretty much any seller. A lot of times these are sellers that have a higher expectation of the value of their home in its condition than what the market suggests. So for example, if somebody, I'm just going to use round numbers, somebody wants $100,000 for their house, but it requires $20,000 in repair for it to be a $100,000 house, the market would only support about $80,000 on it. But they are dead set on that 100. That is a person that this works great for. Also, they have the assurity that the mortgage is staying in their name, although you have the rights and responsibilities of the owner. So if at any point you want to renovate, you want to sell, you can do those things. You just don't have to, but you can. You have those options. So you have 100% of the rights of the owner, which makes it very easy for you to negotiate and translate that into a positive cash flow. We have a contract for deed, which is kind of like when you buy a car, but they hold the title until you've paid it off. It's that type of thing. So basically, they will hold on. You'll have what's known as a pocket deed also. You'll have the deed written up, and it'll be held with your attorney, but it's not actually filed until you've made your final payment on it. So you can do this for a long term, or you can do it for a short term with the potential to cash out if you're going to refinance or something like that, or sell it, things along those lines. Then finally, you have a wrap mortgage, and that takes those other ways and puts them together. Most traditionally, it'll be your subject to with an owner finance. So let's go back to a $100,000 house because easy numbers, right? So let's say you have that $100,000 house you've agreed to pay $100,000 on. However, they owe $80,000 on it. You'll make the mortgage payment for the 80, and then the 20 you'll pay directly to them in installments. So that would be the way that that would work out. The way that you're going to be paid on these is with those typically, I mean, obviously you can hold them as a rental, you can do an Airbnb or things along those lines, do a crash pad, any of those things. But what I've found to be the most lucrative and what I've found to be the most inviting is rather than doing those things, you lease purchase or owner finance the house to your end user. With that, on a lease purchase, you can typically get between $5,000 and 5% of the purchase price down up front. And then you have your monthly payment, which should make you a couple of $100s a month. I mean, you're not going to get rich off of one for sure, but it definitely builds to your portfolio and adds to your income. And you're going to hold on to that property for an amount of time that allows it to be income producing at the end. So when your buyer cashes out, you'll be making money. It'll be putting it back in your pocket. So $100,000 house again, we're going to make our in sales price, because we're going to have projected equity, we're going to make our in sales price, let's say $120,000. At the end of the day, you will have made your upfront payment. Let's say they only put $5,000 down. You'll make $5,000 up front. You'll make $200 a month, or give or take, and then you will end up ultimately with the $20,000 in your pocket at the end, less any closing costs that you've agreed to pay. So when you're doing that, they then take on the rights and responsibilities of the homeowner. So you are not responsible for maintenance and repair. You are not responsible for taxes and insurance unless you want to escrow that into your payment, which I always do. I always charge like a PITI payment. And this gives you the freedom of having income that just flows into you, but it also gives you the freedom of not having to get that call in the middle of the night that their toilet's backed up or that their roof is leaking. So these are the techniques and what actual creative financing is. So I'll go into more detail on each one, on how to find your buyers, how to find your sellers, things along those lines at another time. But again, I hope everybody's staying safe and trying to enjoy the time you have off, if it's forced time off. And if you're able to work, then awesome. And if you are one of the people who are working in the medical field, if you're a first responder, if you're working in a grocery store or a pharmacy, any of those things where you are in contact with the public every day, thank you so much for all that you do. Have a great day.